Turn our attention now to politics of the day. Joining us is Amanda Rishworth, the Shadow Minister for Early Childhood Education and Development. Thanks for your time. You've been critical of the government's changes to the childcare subsidy. Many people grappling with that in this first week of July, the first week of the financial year. But isn't it reasonable to require some parents to have an activity test of 4 hours a week? Individuals could volunteer in their school canteen, for example, 1 or 2 hours a day, and then they cover off that requirement.
Well, look, there is certainly some concerns around the compliance activity that the government is now embarking on. The previous minister was talking about a light touch activity test and light touch compliance. Of course, what we now know is the government will be data matching income records from tax returns with the amount of childcare subsidy that one has. We know that previously, when they've attempted to do this, there has been debts that have been levied on people that didn't actually acquire those sorts of debts. But also, I don't think parents were expecting or prepared for this. At the beginning of last financial year, they were asked to estimate their income. Now we find out that there will be data matching and a huge amount of compliance work, and I'm very concerned about parents that will end up with large amounts of debt. How are they going to pay it off? But also, what is it going to mean for their childcare arrangements going forward?
This is a system that has been really vulnerable to being rorted, and that's something that a lot of taxpayers would be concerned about. Isn't this a good thing that the government is increasing its compliance behaviour?
Well, of course, what the government has not done is worked with parents and explained to them that there will be data matching with their records. They said at the beginning, just estimate, just give us an estimate. It's just going to be a light touch compliance activity. And now they're doing the exact opposite. So they sent one message to parents before an election, of course, and another message to parents after the election. What we're also concerned about is who's going to end up having to pay these debts back. Is it going to fall on childcare providers that will actually have to do the debt collection on behalf of the government, or will it be Centrelink? That is still unclear as well. So I think the issue is here, there's been a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation coming from the government when it comes to childcare fees, and now it's going to be parents at the beginning of the next financial year that are actually going to find out exactly what this so-called light activity test is all about.
But in terms of 4 hours a week, whether it's volunteering in your school canteen, studying something at TAFE, some part-time work or volunteering for Vinnies or the Salvos, whatever it is, 4 hours a week, isn't that reasonable given other people receiving the childcare subsidy are working full-time?
Well, the activity test is not just about those individuals. It is also about what level of support you get. So depending on whether or not you work 26 hours a week or a range of different hours, it will depend on the level of childcare support you get. So there's been a lot of people that have seen a reduction in the level of support they get. But in terms of the activity test, previously it was the case that every child had access to early education, a certain level of early education. That's a principle that has been supported widely across the world as a good principle of ensuring that every child gets the best possible start to life. The government has turned this really into a compliance process rather than actually looking at what's of benefit to the child.
Sorry, it looks like you lost your mic there, but sorted it out. Absolutely professional. If we could ask about other news of the day, it would be interesting to get your take on just the story we're following about a Chinese warship coming to observe Australian activities. It's quite alarming for many Australians to think that the Chinese are coming and observing such a sensitive process like that. But do you think this is the new normal?
Well, look, I haven't seen I've only just seen the reports. I haven't had any briefings or anything to give me the details of what's actually happening. But look, I think it's not surprising that China, as it grows in its economic power and its assertiveness, that it is taking an interest in our region. I don't think that is surprising to anyone. So, of course, what's in Australia's interest is that we have a good relationship with China. We have a good relationship with the US, and indeed that China and the US have a good relationship. We want stability in our region. We want to ensure that those with power in our region and across the globe are working constructively together for peace in our area and in our region.
On another matter, just finally, the push for more economic reform, particularly industrial relations. This is coming from the Australian Industry Group today and another industry body, Steve Knott from the Australian Mines and Metals Association. They're calling for another wave of reform, that the RBA changes monetary policy plus the government's tax cuts aren't enough, that there needs to be more done. What's your overall view of these 6 points that the industry bodies have put out today?
Well, I don't think going after workers' entitlements and workers' rights are the best way forward to ensure that we have a growing economy. I think there's certainly more that needs to be done. I agree with them in the sense that there does need to be more done than just the RBA cuts and tax cuts. There does need to be stimulus in our economy, and bringing forward infrastructure is a great example of what can be done. I don't see, though, watering down workers' rights and actually attacking some of the basic entitlements that workers have.
Which one of these points does that? Which one of these points does that in your view?
Well, of course, anything that watering down entitlements of workers ensures that they don't get their rightful place in our economy. They deserve pay increases. We've seen stagnant wage growth, and of course the government said that is a product of their design, their government's design. That doesn't help our economy either. The stagnant wages, of course, has affected the ability of ordinary workers to go out and spend in our economy. So I think when it comes to more work to be done to help our economy, there is more work to be done. But I don't think you go straight away to workers' entitlements and in the hope that that somehow will make our economy stronger.
And just finally, we know you're a few weeks away from having baby number 2. You were part of a pretty iconic photo when you were pregnant with your first child with Kate Ellis and Kelly O'Dwyer. You were all pregnant in Parliament at the same time. Both of those parliamentarians have now left, saying family reasons was a serious concern for them. Do you think enough's being done to support women in Parliament who are having families?
Well, look, I think more can be done right across all workplaces in terms of supporting women and families really balance their family responsibilities and their working responsibilities. Of course, I feel very lucky. My husband will take the majority of the parental leave, so we're lucky in our family arrangements that is a possibility. That's not always the case for whether it's members of Parliament or other workers around the country. So I think the more that we can do in terms of cultural change, but also rules within workplaces to support both men and women have time off and balance their families is really important. And certainly the Parliament is one of those places, but I do think it's a lot of workplaces around Australia.